Well, I'm happy to see Ian Cameron in the Cape Town studio. When I heard you'd been delayed, I thought you'd been intercepted by the blue light mafia.
Oh, thank goodness not.
So I'm pleased to hear. While we're on the blue light mafia, may we please have an update?
Yeah, so Chris, it's been a very, very interesting matter, because you would think that when something like that happens, and it's got such massive exposure, that government would try and make sure that things happen the right way, but they haven't. So what they've done in the meantime is, firstly, I think I told you that they tried to withhold the medical report from one of the victims, so we've managed to intercept that. Then, obviously, they said that the victims weren't allowed to speak to the media. This all coming from the SANDF, and they used the military police to try and withhold the medical report from the victim. Then we found out today that the SANDF have transferred some of the victims suddenly to posts far away from Pretoria and Johannesburg, which is also too much of a coincidence for me. Now, I guess on the one side it could be positive because it's a change of scenery for them. But on the other side, it could delay matters in terms of investigation and everything. So we are in consultations at the moment with regards to the civil process to see how we're going to approach it. I think it's crucial from our side that the cops that were involved, or the thugs that were involved, are held accountable in their personal capacity. So we're aiming for that. We don't want it to just be another expense for the taxpayer. We want to make sure that those involved pay from their own pockets.
If they can afford to?
If they can afford to. If not, it must come from their pensions. So that's what we're aiming for. And I think we want to make an example from them, that they're not above the law, that we're not second-class citizens, and that we need to keep them accountable.
And that you're not going to allow the state to protect them.
Absolutely, with our money.
And they've now been suspended, but what does that really mean?
And their suspension happened with full benefits. So there's absolutely no real, there's nothing detrimental to them at all. It's a paid holiday, full benefits. And it's an age-old story of the South African Police Service. I mean, I think I've told you before, but I mean, over the past, it's between 2013 and 2021, they charged just over 10,000 cops with serious violent offences, and out of the over 10,000 that they charged, only 50 were suspended. So, I mean, in this case, it just shows you, luckily they were suspended, even though with pay, because usually nothing happens. And so there's a lot of work to be done, but I believe that we need to make sure that it doesn't die down. Obviously, people look on to the next news, but it's crucial that we keep on updating on this, and we make sure that we make an example of those perpetrators.
If we could briefly go back to the convoy, how many vehicles were there in the convoy? Do we know exactly?
Yeah, what we were able to find out so far, what we've been told, I haven't seen all the footage myself, is that there were a total of 7 vehicles in the convoy. Someone in the police, allegedly someone in the police, I still don't know who this person is, spoke to a journalist from Media 24 and said to this journalist that this blue polo supposedly threatened the convoy. Now, let's stay objective for now. If you were 4 people unarmed in a little polo, how on earth would you threaten a convoy of 7 vehicles full of armed people? It doesn't make sense. So I think it's in Afrikaans you say benoude katte maak benoude spronge, and I think it's that. It's literally a matter of them trying to save face after this whole incident. We were also told that there were JMPD vehicles involved, which we haven't seen footage of. And then on top of that, what we were also told is that just before this happened, another convoy came past, which was apparently Fikile Mbalula's convoy. Now, there's an important thing to consider, because why does Fikile Mbalula have a blue light convoy? He's not meant to. He's not a state employee anymore. He's certainly not a minister anymore. So why does the Secretary General of the ANC have police protection? So there's those kind of questions. So whoever this so-called cop is that's speaking out, he's actually exposing them even more as to how the police, the police as a body is being abused for political gain, or let's call it a political iron fist for that matter.
7 vehicles, but Is that normal for a deputy president? Last time I checked, the president had 5.
I think it depends on threat assessments. It depends on where it is. It could have been that 2 of the 7 were JMPD. Often they would ask as part of some kind of an operating procedure that local traffic police help them with escorting. So it depends. I would not be surprised if, look, in terms of the president, he's got the Presidential Protection Unit. There's a military unit. Usually, I can't remember perfectly, but it's usually 2 or 3 military vehicles that also accompany them. So it's quite a big convoy.
Okay.
I mean, Minister Bekele, last time I saw, had 9 vehicles looking after him. They marked out almost 20 parking spaces with the incident that him and I had. He had, just on one day, escorting him was VIP protection. He had flying squad. He had provincial tactical response team, TRT. He had K9 unit, and he had the provincial task team from the provincial commissioner's office also looking after him. So all of those units get withdrawn, that they then abuse to be their glorified butlers for a day.
Do we yet know exactly where in that convoy Deputy President Paul Mashatile was?
What we found out so far is that he was part of that convoy. So that's the first thing. He was definitely part of the convoy. Those 2 vehicles that we saw in the video, I'm told that there were actually 3 vehicles involved in pushing the victims off the road, but we can only see 2 of them on the video. Paul Mashatile, they say, was in the convoy, the part of the convoy that kept on going.
Okay.
So I assume that these vehicles would have stayed behind, and then I don't know if they caught up again, but it's completely unorthodox. There's nothing that can justify.
So they abandoned their posts, literally.
They abandoned their posts.
That is also a offence that's chargeable, isn't it?
Yeah, but let's say for a moment that they did abandon it because there was a legitimate threat. Even then, it doesn't make sense, because they then abandoned the so-called threat as well.
Yeah.
So if they were to say that it was to protect the deputy president was already safe because he was with the rest of the convoy, so there shouldn't have been more of a threat. So why would they stop? So we can keep on analyzing it. The point is just everything that they did, there's nothing that can justify the way that they approached the situation.
Well, Ian, you may have seen the comments to some of your interviews. You are a hero crime fighter across all communities in South Africa, and you may have seen the comments saying, Ian for Minister of Police, Ian for President. Now, if you were the Minister of Police, what would you do about policing in South Africa? What would be your priority?
Yeah, so firstly, I'm just Ian. So I think that's an important part, is that I think it's a very big privilege for me to have an opportunity to do a job where we can make an impact. And I'm very grateful for that. And I've got a family that we all work together to do that. So that's a phenomenal opportunity. In terms of what I would do, so there are a few, I think, simple things that we can do. When I say simple, they're simple tasks that would require a lot of hard work. And I would start by fixing the top structure of the South African Police Service. And the first thing is important, that when you choose a national commissioner, that national commissioner must understand that he is like a CEO. He's a CEO of an entity that is providing a service to, let's say, 60 million clients. And those clients deserve to be treated in a certain way. So the way that he conducts himself is the way that the cops on the ground would conduct themselves. Now, if he keeps turning a blind eye to things that go wrong around him, what do you think the cops on the ground are going to do? So to me, it's crucial that he also understands that he is, he's a national commissioner, and that the minister doesn't take over that role. Because at the moment, we've got Bekele acting as though he is the CEO of the police, and we've got the national commissioner playing lapdog for the minister. And it really does look like that. In fact, it actually looks sometimes to me like the national commissioner is Cele's butler, you know. So I would clear that up. What I would do then is to look at the top 10 and see if we can do a very, very good skill audit for them. Do a skills audit to determine who was appointed to merit and who not. Those appointed according to merit obviously want to stay. If not, they need to be removed, political appointments especially. And then we'll do, and this is one of two last steps, we'll do a polygraph process to determine where we need to start investigating in the senior structure for who was involved in corruption. And if you are flagged, you are immediately removed. And then, we can pull in people that are skilled with the right integrity to do this job. And I think that word integrity is what needs to form the foundation of the police. It's integrity with transparency. None of this closed door, cloak and dagger way that we see the South African police service being managed now, because then it just becomes another Gestapo for whoever the ruling party might be. So we don't want that to happen. And I think if we approach it that way, obviously we need to look at training. We want to bring reservists back. We need more detectives. We need better There's so many things we can add. But I think fixing the integrity issue on a national level and putting the right people into place there will automatically mean that a lot of it will start siphoning down to ground level.
What words of hope do you have for people who feel they can't get justice?
So I think obviously we want communities to be involved, etc. We already say that, and we can talk about that on another day. But I want to use a speech that I listened to actually this morning by Dr. Corné Mulder from the Freedom Front Plus, where he spoke of the modern day UDF principle. And I would like to encourage that. It really filled me with hope to listen to his guidance and how he described this modern UDF. And he said that if we don't pull civil society in and make sure that civil society, along with political parties, work together to remove the ANC, if we don't do that, we can't expect much of a change. It doesn't help, that we just rearrange the previous voters, because, we always say it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's the same principle. It's still a sinking ship. So we need to do that. And I think if we can pull in people that say that there's no point in voting, if we can get them back to say, but give it one last shot, then there really is something to say. We've got incredible people. We already have strong leaders. We just need to coordinate it the right way. And if we can get civil society along with, political parties that are able to work together and remove the petty nonsense that we see every now and then, we really do have a shot of making this country remarkable. I've got no doubt that if we pull the right people together and build a strong core leadership where political parties from around the spectrum in South Africa, I'm talking about political parties that aren't the ANC or the EFF, I honestly think that we've got a shot of making this place remarkable. So I do have hope, but I do think that if we don't vote right and work in the right direction in the 2024 election, we've got a major crisis. I think it will be a groundbreaking, it's a watershed moment in the country, and it's probably the most important election that we've had since 1994.
Thank you, Ian Cameron of Action Society in BizNews' Cape Town studio at the Latitude Apart Hotel. Thank you.
Thank you.